God of War Ragnarök came out over 3 years ago, and it was easily one of the biggest games of 2022. I want to go back and play it again, just not like a normal human being, because in my ongoing quest to become the most masochistic gamer on the internet, I decided to take one of the most brutal games on PS5, throw away every weapon Kratos has at his disposal, and turn the whole thing into a slow, painful boxing match.
Let me see a combo though. Ooh.
On a normal playthrough, Kratos has the Leviathan Axe, the Blades of Chaos, and the Draupnir Spear, all designed to deal with the different enemy types and stop things from caving his skull in. For this run, I had none of that. Just the 2 sledgehammers attached to my body. And to make this game even worse, I did it on the hardest difficulty in the game. So, the question was simple. Can you beat God of War Ragnarök on the God of War difficulty using your fists only?
You'll get your answer soon enough. Well, some of them.
We start with Kratos heading home after catching his daily dose of protein in the form of a large deer, when Freya decided she needed the meat to feed her ever so loving family.
Must be better than this.
Maybe not. After escaping the meat-obsessed Freya, we arrive home, say our goodbyes to our good boy Fenrir, have a quick memory trip about our dead wife, and before you know it, we're at our first proper encounter. And this is where the challenge begins. Straight away, I realised there is a mechanic in the game where if you punch an enemy without finishing them off in that moment, they will level up and become a meat sparring bag. Oh, sugar. More health, less ability to stagger, and they hit like a truck. So, I couldn't just rush in swinging. I had to adopt a cockeye strategy of keeping one eye on the enemy I was attacking, while keeping my other eye on the surrounding enemies, ensuring they didn't neck their 5th dose of pre-workout mid-fight. That became more of a problem in the first cave encounter, where the game threw a full D&D party at me, forming a pincer formation and attacking me from the ground, while also having the archery squad shooting me from the above. We start to develop a few solutions to this increasingly hard problem. Go away. Gotta be very strategic here. There we go, enjoy that. Enjoy that. And then the game threw a bear at me. Great. It seems like Paddington, after his recent endeavour to Peru, has gotten a taste of a certain crystal white powder, and thought I was keeping some in my prison wallet, which was a trade secret in the protein business industry. Immediately, this raised a very important question. How did this bear know I had this off-menu ingredient? I kept telling him no. He kept replying in the form of a free swipe combo. We then offered a peace treaty in the form of a Spartan Rage. You pissed me off! And just as we're about to grace this oversized cave dweller with a one-way trip to Valhalla, it's revealed that the bear was Atreus.
What?
To be honest, if I knew it was Atreus, I wouldn't have held back with those punches. Now, with Atreus back in his non-grizzly state, we'd actually utilise his skills in the Legolas arts during this run, as having some backup on a masochist's wet dream of a challenge doesn't sound such a bad idea. From there, we encounter more enemies, and we start to understand how this challenge should be played, as we realise that by aligning 2 or more enemies together, we could tick them both down without giving either of them enough room to catch their breath. And then the God of Thunder showed up, looking like he just ate a titanium-lined Bosch fridge. He demanded some aged-cured meats from our stock, and after saying no, proceeded to beat the piss out of me. We finished the first phase easily without a hitch, and then Thor decided enough was enough and killed me. But he wasn't done playing with his food yet.
Oh no. I say when we're done.
3 deaths later, in the second phase, and after an unhealthy amount of dodging, which would put RE5 Wesker to shame, we got through our first boss fight. The final blow of the Haymaker Express landed, and he flew off to go find another poor meat supplier. We then encountered the Huntress, who, funnily enough, gave me more of a fight than the toned up Queso fight just moments ago. This encounter requires us to throw our Blades of Chaos to stun her, but we instead gave her a free dental service. She would often use a last-ditch frenzy attack, which killed me multiple times, but after a lot of failed attempts, we managed to extract that painful wisdom tooth she was complaining about. At this point, it became very clear that, to overcome this challenge, we would have to utilize more of Kratos' full moveset, dodging, parrying, rather than just fisting our way through the 9 realms. After being told about our prophecy, we were told to head over to Svartalheim, where we were immediately greeted by moving bratwursts with an anger problem. Oh my god.
Why are these things so bad?
Straight away, Team Ninja Turtles appeared, pissed off that we'd invaded their holiday retreat from the rat-infested New York City. Sorry, Master Splinter. We then realised another move that would prove to be valuable during our run. Ledgers.
Bye, have a great time.
If I sprinted at an enemy and hit it with the right trigger, we would launch this poor specimen off the map and kill them instantly, saving both our time and health while maintaining what's left of our sanity. We also relied on another mechanic that became important in our run: finishers.
What?
No, all right. I know that sounds bad.
Now, I know some people might get funny about whether finishers should count in a fists only run, but in my book, if I've battered an enemy enough with the meat pistols to trigger the finisher, I'm gonna take it. Eventually, we arrive in Nidavellir, where Sindri told us to talk to the local busker, and somehow this little musician gremlin trapped me in an impromptu 5-minute set without a word of warning before I realised the game had glitched, and we had to force a restart to progress the story. We then took a detour to get some air after that poor performance and encountered the Hateful. The run was going so well at this point. I felt I was on cloud 9, thinking I could fight everything in the 9 realms without a problem in the world. But this enemy made me rethink that decision. The Hateful had a unique moveset where it swung 2 cleavers while having the Speed Force injected into its legs. And on top of that, it would also summon 2 bodyguards for backup. We gave this encounter a few attempts, and after the 9th attempt, I honestly had to call it quits and leave the Hateful to rule another day.
I'm too weak.
We quickly ran into the Deep's halfling protege, offering our culinary expertise in whipping up the best calamari using one of his water friends, to which he told us to kindly fuck off and kicked us out. We then hopped on the Circle line to London St Pancras,
We will shortly be arriving at London St Pancras International.
which ended up breaking down and gave me PTSD from being on the underground in real life. We hopped off and were instantly greeted by a knockoff Pikachu. Where we spammed our tackle move until it fainted before being pushed into the next station. Wait. Ah, shit. I left my ticket with the Pikachu corpse. After hearing this, the ticket inspectors were alerted and came onto our carriage and demanded we pay our fare. We had nothing but these hands to offer, so naturally we put them to work.
The brake stuck. Keep
Stop this train!
This ended with the Central Line final boss waiting at the end of the line, destroying the whole train itself and preventing us from completing our journey. So we had to progress our journey on foot. After sparring with the local hobos, and executively deciding to avoid the second hateful after a couple of attempts, we bump into a more personified Treebeard being strangled by a curtain tie. We cut him loose and had to chase him out while fighting calcified dogshit getting in our way. And this took us to our next chapter. After aggressively shouting at TFL down the phone line.
Okay.
TFL.
Fuckface. First, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
We transitioned to Atreus, where I quickly realised that this little bastard might actually stand a better chance than Kratos in a fists only run. He had combos that were quick, had a wide range to attack multiple enemies, and could also juggle an enemy into the air, making it easier to dispatch Pound City. That, combined with Sindri's bag of trinkets, made us a force to be reckoned with, as we dealt with the first encounter like a fart in the wind. We then summoned Jormungandr using Parcel Tongue. I also realised recently that Loki in Norse mythology is the father to Jormungandr, which, when looking back at this story, is pretty questionable. He hints that we should go down to Ironwood and that Freya is a mile down the road. But then we hit our first roadblock and our first rule break. We had to use the bow on our way to Freya, and there were enemies sitting high up on ledges without a way to hit them with the oak bow special. So, just like that, the run was over. Or at least, that's what I would have said if I was being a tight ass with the challenge. The reality is this: there are points in Ragnarok where the game simply puts you in a chokehold, forcing you to use a weapon to progress forward.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
So naturally, I shot this ledge-dwelling miscreant and we pushed ahead. So for this challenge, the rules stayed the same wherever the combat actually allows it. If I could use fists, I used fists. If the game hard-forced a weapon for the progression, I allowed it and moved on. And just to keep myself accountable, we'll add a counter. We finally arrive at Freya to earn her forgiveness, but she instantly refuses because, you know. We tried and failed, so we decided to head home. Our focus now shifts to Alfheim, which was awkward because our good deed, or so we thought from the first game, ended up causing an outright slaughter of the Dark Elves. We ran into the Light Elves almost immediately, and instead of thanking Kratos for his previous community work, the local barbers were more interested in giving us a short back and sides and a beard trim using those horrible little jewel blades.
Where the 1, 2, 3's alive?
I politely declined and replied by treating every one of them like my meat punching bag. Eventually, we made it to the temple doorway and were greeted by the world's largest nightlight. This fight was rough. I died 7 times in this section, and in 3 of those attempts, I was a ball hair away from completing the encounter before some light elf bullshit happened. Great. No! Come on.
Get up, brother! Come on, Kratos! Off your back!
But eventually, with the help of Atreus and absolutely sod all from Tyr.
What have you done?
Tyr.
Nothing! You've done nothing!
I somehow managed to drag myself through it with nothing but my knuckles and a dream. Oh, we did it. We nearly encountered the same fate as a moth to a bug zapper, stumbled on another prophecy, and learnt that Ragnarok was inevitable.
Asgard is destroyed, but the other realms thrive.
And Odin dies.
Tyr naturally took that news so well. And we hit our next boss enemy. Since diplomacy had clearly left the building, we had to respond with a one-stop shop to the gun show, all without dying once, which gave me some hope that I was starting to understand what was required to complete this challenge.
She's using the light to heal herself.
Then came Ironwood. Now, I completely get what the game was going for here, but this section kinda dragged for me, so rather than bore you to death, I'm going to give you just the cliff notes. We woke up after what I would call a Spartan's wet dream, met the local hippie, and immediately got roped into the Norse supermarket simulator.
Where are we going?
We're gonna get some food, plant some seeds, my everyday stuff.
After spilling the secret that I was an animagus, we went soul searching for what looked like loose chocolate starfish beads, which unfortunately for them, had the souls of giants in them. Atreus gave his shot at rizzing up Angraboda by giving her a flower, where he achieved negative aura points and proceeded to go cave dwelling and fight the local wildlife. We then get jumped by our favourite X-Men member, which we had to then beat into submission before having to deal with the local world eater Grilla, and as we find out, Angraboda's grandmother. What Angraboda failed to mention was that this mountainous version of Dimitrescu had a drinking problem and couldn't part with her beer chalice. We decided to destroy her glass as an extreme version of intervention, but this was no easy task as the game once again forced my hand into breaking our challenge. We had to shoot her basin, the candles, and everything else that would take an arrow, while also dodging her voodoo spells and a metric ton stamp to the head. We destroyed her cup, gave her the colossal middle finger, and headed back home. We quickly dealt with the budget Blue Man group and tried to head home before our dad realised we were gone. Oh, we're so fucked. It seems that making an appearance to Midgard has sent everyone my location, including my enemies, and sent us another battle of fisticuffs, but one with Odin's Arbiters of Death.
Remember us? Not sure this is a balcony we've met, lad.
How do you know?
She's corporeal, but different. Looks like the bastard's finally done it.
I don't want to fight you.
Eventually, after enough scrambling, we find it was Freya. And like Paddington, she also mentioned that she was also after the Bolivian marching powder. Atreus wanted the powder all for himself, so responding by turning into a bear, where we had to give him the full Nelson and let him know that if he wanted the stock for himself, he probably should have just kept his mouth shut. With Freya back in the picture, we headed over to Vanaheim, because she was currently trapped in an internal kink session with Odin, with the World Tree keeping her tied to the Midgard bed, unable to travel between realms. We were welcomed by two massive wolfmen who requested wisdom tooth removals, and showed their rage state to demonstrate the amount of pain they were in, before we gave them both the extraction they wanted. Bang, 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 come on. From there, we pushed deeper into the Timu version of the Forbidden Forest, where we met up with Freyr? And not long after that, we ran into the Ancient. And I did try to keep things honest and fight it with fists only.
Hit its chest. What it drops is highly volatile. You're too impatient. Wait until it opens its chest to attack.
After a resounding 15 minutes, we have to add a coin to the raw break jar. And after an embarrassing 8 deaths, we punch this rock bastard to death, putting Chris Redfield to shame. Then, the Asgardian army ambushed us, which normally would have gone well on its own. We were jump scared by the forest's forces of nature. Oh, Jesus Christ. The forest dog had an overshield we had to take down before our fist could put a hole through its face, which added another layer to this challenge and took us an embarrassing amount of time to defeat.
He's as hot-headed as you. Try cooling him down first.
Damn. I felt like I was turning into Vars. Punch, dodge, die, repeat, and going pretty insane. It took us until our 9th attempt before cashing out this canine from this world. We finally arrived at Freya's and Odin's bondage tree until Godzilla's unemployed snake nephew ripped the universe open to stop us.
Nidhogg!
The creature! It belongs to Odin?
No! It protects Yggdrasil's roots wherever they are.
We had to break our challenge a few more times as this encounter had 3 phases, and each phase required us to use our weapons to knock Nidhogg to the floor before giving the VIP pass to these hands.
Aim for my sigils!
After Nidhogg realised that we weren't there with them, they were there with us. It tried to run away before we gave it the barber treatment and a 0 on top.
I have to break his hold on me, and you are in the way!
And that freed Freya from Midgard. Back at the World Tree, the whole gang was trying to come up with a plan on how to deal with Ragnarok. Atreus came up with the deadest plan to go to Asgard to play Odin for answers.
I was only thinking about going to Odin, but I swear it's for a good reason.
There is no good reason to go to Odin.
He'll only cloud your mind.
And before we had a chance to say no, he ran off and fought his way to our favourite boy Charlie, who is living proof that Freya hasn't been winning any parenting awards, considering the state he was in. And with the help of Odin's rat with wings, we're transported to Asgard. Where we started to wonder by looking over the wall, where are all the White Walkers at? After fighting a minor inconvenience of enemies, we then run into what was called a Wraith. These enemies required that we shoot each of the glowing orbs before we were able to cause any damage to them. So once again, we had to break a rule. We decided that we wanted the Night's Watch treatment and scaled the wall before we were grabbed by a blonde-haired moody foreskin with an attitude problem. Only he was called Heimdall.
Hi.
So, what part of the enormous wall made you think, oh, visitors must be welcome?
And he was the only one who knew where Odin was. We arrived at Odin's love grotto, but instead of meeting with Odin himself, the whitehead bastard thought it would be a great time to haze me.
Ha! Hey! Whoa! Hey, helmets! I brought you a practice dummy.
I thought we were going to Odin.
You see, the thing is, you're too treacherous indeed.
After dealing with the normal enemies, Heimdall wanted to have a go, until we realised that Heimdall was clearly infected by the T-virus, because he was dodging everything before getting my ass handed to me.
Not even close.
At which point, Odin stepped in and asked Heimdall to fuck off. After sleeping in Thor's dead son's room, we are tasked to go to Muspelheim to complete Odin's lifelong dream to become Jim Carrey.
Okay.
And who better and Thor to accompany us.
Thor, get down here.
All father.
Don't do that.
Which normally would sound useful, but this fat bastard had other plans. Thor could have chosen to one-bang every being in Muspelheim, but instead decided to adopt the London Council approach and do sod all in desperate times of need, leaving us to figure it out alone.
Okay. Give me a little rush. Can I get some help here?
Since we're short on time, I'll humor.
We bump into Angraboda once again, and we find out the steps to causing Ragnarok. That turned out to be Surtur and Sinmara consummating their raw dog fantasy. Bit weird. Honestly, what the fuck is this game? Still, with that delightfully cursed bit of information now lodged into my brain forever, we pushed on to find the second piece of the mask. A few encounters later, and with sod all help from Thor,
You could have done that at any time.
You seem to be handling yourself well enough. I was trusting you.
we found the second piece of the mask and headed back to Asgard.
No! Ah! Damn it!
We then transitioned back to Kratos, where me and Freya had an in-depth discussion on what we should have for dinner, where she mentions that she was always craving Italian from the Michelin star restaurant run by the Nonnas, a mix between the Nonna and the Norns. And without a reservation, we needed to head quickly to Midgard to get ourselves a table. After one dog sled journey across the frozen lake of Midgard, another encounter with a hilariously overpowered Hateful.
Come on, Kratos, get up!
I'm joking. And a few spontaneous sparring matches with the locals. We ran into the next proper problem. Not one, but two of those elemental puppies. This time infused with frost. This was horrible, as this fight required brain power I simply didn't possess at this point, due to this challenge sanding down my frontal lobe. The first attempt, we got battered. The second attempt, we got very close, managed to kill one of the frostmutts, and then the backup stepped in and gave me a side swipe of rabies. But then I remembered something important. Their moveset seemed to be the same as the fire puppy we fought a while ago. It seems that they went to the same kendo school, which was to their detriment, as we then downloaded the counter moveset like Neo from the Matrix. And after enough trial and error, and deaths, we died 5 times here. We finally ended that fight 2-0. Moments later, we then encountered the Frost Phantom, which, while it had an annoying moveset, also required us to punch through the 2 phallic looking towers to ensure we damaged this haunted slush puppy. After a metric ton of fists thrown at its head, we dealt with the encounter before realizing we took a colossal hit to the prefrontal cortex, as we start imagining all sorts of weird shit.
Why didn't you trust your own son?
Don't let him take me!
Atreus!
I'm scared!
We fought through our demons, and were rewarded with a real-life breathing Ferrari, which had its GPS already programmed to the Michelin star restaurant. We finally arrive at the Norna's restaurant, and with the outside looking like Mario and Luigi's wet dream, we enter it, and instead of a nice plate of Italian food, we were told that my child was destined to kick the bucket under the White Walker himself, Heimdall.
You will learn that Heimdall intends to kill your son in Asgard, and you will do what you do best. And then Ragnarok.
The service here is honestly terrible. With that awful service and Freya running into one of Odin's kink toys, we headed back to the Hobbit twins at the World Tree and tell them the news.
The Norns say Atreus will be killed by Heimdall. The plan is to kill Heimdall first.
Oh, wow. Okay, Heimdall. Let's see. Never loses, sees everything coming, unpopular at parties. This won't be easy.
They tell us they might have a solution, and Sindri heads down to the mines of Moria before coming back with the One Ring.
Got it! I think.
But we needed a mastersmith to craft a weapon to kill a god, and they were located underwater. Fast forward and we made it down to the underwater forge. We were ambushed by a mute little siren that immediately nicked our ring. Hey, give that back! And used it to forge our brand new weapon, the Draupnir spear. Now, while I do appreciate the gesture, for our fists only run, this one ring imbued spear fast-tracked its way to becoming an extremely expensive toothpick. The spear kept calling me to using its power of the one ring, begging to be used on every enemy in sight, but I held firm and stuck with throwing my hands. Not long after that, the game started pigeonholing me into using the new weapon, again on the nightmares and their nests. So, we have to break the rule. Then came another proper problem. There were two giant bastards with health bars the size of mortgages, plus a load of smaller enemies swarming around Brock, me, and my increasingly overworked fists. And for a moment there, I genuinely felt a bit hopeless. But then I remembered something very important. By only stunning one of these ogres, I could shove my arm right up the poor bastard's love hole and use him like a puppet to smash everything else in the area to pieces. And just like that, the whole fight swung back in my favour. We end the chapter with a brief chat with Odin and a brief dream about Faye and Atreus. We transition back to Atreus, and with this negative aura and sad personality, we convince Thor's daughter Thrud to accompany us on the search for the last piece of the mask. And after using our Google Translate app, we found out that we would need to head to Helheim.
Helheim, you say? I'll take it.
This place was cold, miserable, full of corpses, but that's enough about London. Back to Helheim. Once we arrived, we ended up recreating our own scene from The Walking Dead, doming all enemies who had greet death once again like it's their best friend. Until the Revenants turn up. These little floaty bastards require being hit with a bow shot before you're able to do any physical damage to them. And without the reliance of having our companion doing that, we had to submit to the rule break here.
Hey, what's going on out there? You okay?
I got it!
Attaboy, Loki. Mess him up!
So after finally dealing with those irritating little paranormal assholes and pushing deeper into Helheim, we found what looked like it might finally be the last piece of the mask. Except it was lodged inside Clifford the Big Red Dog. So Atreus had the bright idea to let him free, hoping that it would cough up the mask.
Alright. There.
Look out!
You're welcome, mangy mutt.
But that was a huge mistake, because instead of leading us anywhere useful, the big red bastard immediately ran off and started tearing through the realm. It looked like we didn't need Ragnarok after all. It was here already. Atreus then returned home to say sorry for the minor inconvenience, and Kratos, like the good dad he is, decided to head back to Helheim to fix his son's fuck up. Thankfully, the plan to deal with Clifford was simple, and more importantly, it was a plan I was already familiar with. Parry the attacks, engage the full fist piston fury until we proc his chain move, break the rules, and use the axe to freeze the chain, punch again.
It's a good plan. Let's move.
Sounds great in practice, but after dying 10 times, including one near perfect attempt and a minor brain hemorrhage, I finally managed to punch this oversized puppy into submission and give it a more than tight leash to teach it its lesson.
I'm on it!
At least that's what I thought, because it came back with vengeance after a grueling battle, settling this feud once and for all. But thankfully, this was much easier. In fact, I had more trouble ignoring Atreus and his constant demanding to use the toothpick on his neck than Garm himself.
Spear! He's gotta have weak points! Use your spear and attack his neck! Bottom of his leg! Weak point!
But let me go ahead and tell you.
Shut your bitch ass up!
We batter Garm for another couple of rounds, and Atreus had another bright idea. He was going to throw himself at the giant dog and imbue Fenrir into the beast, which for once wasn't such a bad idea.
Please work, please work! I'm sorry!
And just like that, we went from having a realm-destroying enemy on our hands to gaining a brand new four-legged mate for the final stretch of Ragnarok. Now this is going to be a slightly quicker chapter, not because I'm suddenly developing self-restraint, but because the footage for this whole section ended up being corrupted, which is obviously ideal when you've spent the last god knows how many hours getting punched in the face for content. So we'll skip ahead to where we start our fight with Heimdall and his mount, Goldtopper, which thankfully didn't offer much of a challenge.
Having fun yet? Oh well, you and me then.
And we then turn our attention to the cocky bastard himself, Heimdall. We ended up having to break the rules again, as the boss mechanics honestly hinged on the use of the Draupnir spear, at least until we trigger the cutscene.
The scion of you actually hit me.
Then we could store away our god-killing spear and pull out the skullcrackers. Once I did that, we had to lock in, as Heimdall's moveset consisted of unblockable attacks, slowing down time, and throwing Bifrost projectiles, which we tried to send back. After 4 attempts, we finally triggered the cutscene, where we proceeded to pin him to the wall with the little fly he is, and give him the 127-hour treatment.
This about the little runt. Oh, now I am definitely going to gut him.
But before I knew it, the smug little prick had grown the arm back, like the reptile he is, turned the fight around, and suddenly, I was right back to the cycle of dying. And dying. And dying again. So after a brief internal meltdown, and a brain-deep scream all my thought demons could hear, we locked in and literally beat Heimdall so far into the floor, he was sniffing dirt. Okay.
This isn't who you want to be!
We have finally subverted the Italian nonna's reading. After that, we were told my 2 raging fists of fury were immediately needed again, as we needed to rescue the kidnapped Freyr and needed an exit. We fought our way through what felt like an entire Spanish armada, hauled Freyr on our back, and eventually made it to his Viking flying carpet.
Whoa! Of course. Speedboat here. Freyr's boat. They will regroup. We should go.
And we rounded the chapter off with some random NPC I've never interacted with in this playthrough, suddenly decided to aura farm and sacrifice himself to ensure our escape.
No! For Vanaheim!
Which was noble. Slightly undercut by the fact that I barely knew the guy. Still. Thanks, man. We made it back to the World Tree and showed off the spoils of having just killed the physical embodiment of a shit stain.
Look at that. You really did it. How, in all the 9 realms, did you manage to kill Heimdall?
This key piece was actually one of the pieces we needed to unite the realms for Ragnarok War. Unfortunately, Atreus being Atreus once again decided it would be a brilliant idea to head back to Odin, vaguely explained to him the sudden disappearance of Heimdall.
Heimdall's dead. Happen to know something about that? Anything?
Not really sure where he's gone. Maybe he's on his holiday? And then carry on this fun children's puzzle game by finishing this mask. But before we could go, we needed backup. However, the only backup we could get was Thor, and time was of the essence. So we head out to what I would say is one step removed from being a full-on brothel, with Thor pissed out of his head.
Here. You shouldn't have brought her here.
And before we could even leave, he decided it was a great time to start a pub fight.
My name is... What? No, Oh, come on. No, I swear that really wasn't...
Which meant I had to fight the locals while Thor staggered around like a recently divorced husband on his 3rd Stella.
Blake, stop! Damn it! The door's...
Eventually, we made it up to the roof, where the game very helpfully prompted me to use the boat. And staying true to the challenge, I didn't fire a single shot. So for the next 5 minutes, I essentially stood there, watching through do all the work, while I stubbornly refused to play along, until the game finally got bored of my principles and catapulted me into the next cutscene anyways. At which point, we had to escort the drunk Thor out of the building and drag him over to Niflheim. We then ran into another frost giant in Niflheim. Quite honestly, tired of them now. And I had to explain to Thor that I'm doing a fists only run and that I couldn't use my arrows, which already pissed Thor off with our nonsense. So he decided to beat the frost giant himself.
Don't bother getting up.
Finally, he's done something for once. So with him finally contributing something other than emotional instability and property damage, we got through the encounter pretty quickly and pushed on towards the last piece of the mask, which we did manage to find.
Gotcha.
Then Sif came out of nowhere and gave Thor the Green Goblin treatment and convinced Thor to smash my head in after our body cop mission. But thanks to Sindri, we managed to escape with a teleportation stone. And with that, we suddenly had a bit of leverage against Odin. So we headed back to our little tree cabin, mask in hand, and finally sat down with the gang to work out what the next move is. And then Tyr started to change his tune pretty quickly.
I will lead us to Asgard.
Because the so-called God of Peace suddenly started sounding very open to becoming the God of War again. And then...
Hey, I'm talking to you! You never shut up! Run! All the things, Odin.
Ah, right. So Tyr was Odin this whole time. Brock's death hit hard, and it hit Atreus especially hard. So he headed back home to get a bit of breathing room before trying to do the decent thing and comfort Sindri. But rather than some nice emotional reconciliation, Sindri basically told Atreus to go eat dust. Which, to be fair, felt like a pretty fair response, all things considered.
Just get the fuck out of my sight.
But there's really only one thing left to do. Go home and prepare for war. But first, we had to devise a plan. The plan. And to make this glorious master plan work, we needed to fulfill the Ragnarok prophecy by sending Surtur and Sinmara off to the Marriott honeymoon suite located in Muspelheim. So off we went.
Good luck to us all.
Upon arriving in the alfresco Mustafar, we were greeted by the Flame Phantom, which was basically the Frost Phantom's older, angrier, and much hotter brother. And just like his sibling, the fight came with another little caveat. We had to destroy the familiar phallic towers. However, they were located in awkward places where my Draupnir toothpick was required to beat it. Another day, another rule break. Eventually, we found Surtur, and after very politely explaining that I'd book him a romantic honeymoon package for him and the love of his life, we just asked him to cover the deposit until he told us he couldn't.
Go away.
Cheers, you tight bastard. Surtur proceeded to further get in my way by sending a Soul Eater in my path, where I gave it my last chance to see if I could actually take it down without the use of my weapons. I really did try to keep this fist only, but that was impossible. And we got the health halfway down before Surtur sent another rule break, which made me question if this organised honeymoon love fest was really worth it. We finished both Soul Eaters off and went to tell Surtur that we would recover the deposit, but he ended up telling us that he preferred to take the room for himself for some solo self-exploration.
Here. And I'll become your monster.
Yikes. With that resolved, he led us onward to a place where Ragnarok itself could be self-consummated, which felt like a preview from Project Hail Mary. And for the first time in the entire run, we pull out the Blades of Chaos and plunge them into the heart of Surtur.
It's time.
And give him the Black Widow 101 off the cliff. Ragnarok was born. Almost immediately after that, we got ambushed by Odin's Valkyries, Hrist and Mist. You can tell Odin really put effort into those names. And while fighting one of them would have been fine, we were blessed to fight both of them at the exact same time. They both had completely separate movesets, which complemented each other. Hrist used her wings to hit us, or use them as an oversized shield, while Mist would either send projectiles my way, or spin around like a human Beyblade, which caused a lot of death in this part of the game. 3 deaths later, I finally got through the first phase, and then they switched things up. The second phase was worse. They got more aggressive, faster, less forgiving, and every mistake felt like the start of a complete mental collapse. 6 deaths later, with both Valkyrie movesets burned into my skull, we get to the third and final phase, where the fight against both of them became one, as they started to synergize their moves and agreed a shared custody arrangement over my suffering. Enough. Let's lock in. We finally took their health down to trigger the end after 9 more attempts on the third phase, and we finished the fight with a QTE finish where it ended like a low-budget Avengers poster with a dramatic superhero pose. And on that note, it was very clear that we needed to get the fuck out of it before Ragnarok itself decided that I looked like the nice first victim.
It is time.
We headed to Tyr's temple and took one last nap before rounding up the Avengers for the assault on Asgard. We blew the horn, activated the Infinity Stones, and marched through an Asgard that was already half destroyed, reminiscent of my local high street. From there, with the support of Freya, Jormungandr, and Ragnarok, we went to war. We fought through Odin's calcified dogshit army, another mount, and Drogon, despite clearly seeing the world-ending war happening around them.
No more dwarves are dying for this.
We link up with the still grieving Sindri, but instead of bringing the promised dwarven army, he brought an anvil. The war-stopping kind.
You don't get to use us anymore.
And wiped out a load of Misgardians who'd been told to help protect Asgard. Unfortunately, it also came with a bit of collateral.
Wars are won by those who are willing to sacrifice.
From there, it became Atreus and Sindri against the world. But instead of obeying every square prompt I gave Sindri, he decided to go freelance with his grief and fight everyone on his own.
Huh?
Where was this when we needed it? We defeated everyone here, but there was this one archer sitting above us, taking pot shots, and despite us trying our best to get Sindri to attack, or us to zip up with our grapple arrow, we couldn't even hit the enemy. So, you know it. Rule break. At this point, the counter had less become a joke and more of a running tally of Ragnarok personally refusing to let me have nice things. Still, we pushed on, transformed once more, and saved Sindri by turning into Yogi Bear on bath salts, mauling enemies left and right. With Sindri still fully committed to his quest for complete destruction, we gave the Night's Watch PTSD by breaching the wall and picked up Thrud as a companion along the way.
Who's the girl?
Hi, Thrud Thor's daughter.
Thor's daughter?
She's my friend.
From there, it was a nice little cocktail of executions, booting enemies off cliffs, and giving some poor wyvern the sort of chiropractic care that definitely isn't covered by the NHS. And then came the rematch of the century.
I am done with you and your son.
Or at least that's what it should have been. In reality, it was a bit underwhelming, because Thor's moveset barely changed from the first time we fought him, where we only managed to die once for the whole fight. Which really tells you everything you need to know about why Kratos is the god of war. We had a brief heart-to-heart with Thor until... Ugh. Seems like Odin really didn't like that family line. Poor Thrud. Now, I would love to tell you that this fight went as smoothly as the fight with Thor. However, Odin was a proper pain in my ass. He had more movesets than I had kills in this Fist Only challenge, and every single one of them seemed designed to keep me just far enough away that I couldn't give him the Glasgow kiss he deserved. But throughout this fight, there was a mechanic which was a blessing that ensured that we didn't descend into complete societal mess. The checkpoint system. The checkpoint system throws you a lifeline, even on God of War difficulty. So once I punched his health down to about a third of the way and died, restarting the checkpoint meant his health stayed there. With enough persistence, we beat him down to the last of his health, where Freya then whipped out Odin's little kink collar to give him a one-way submission into Valhalla, just before he leveled the floor and started behaving like a local crackhead, becoming completely obsessed with the mask again, as if we just hadn't spent the last 10 minutes trying to cave his head in.
No more fighting.
Atreus then made a very sensible decision to destroy the mask entirely, which destroyed Odin's reason for living and kicked us straight into the next phase of the fight. We continued to offer the 2-for-1 meal deal to the face until he triggered his panic mechanic in the form of a fire shield, which needed to be chipped down before we could start damaging his health again. Then came the second panic move, an ice shield which dragged out the fight that much longer. And after a number of times taking down his shield, beating him senseless halfway, and activating another godforsaken shield, we managed to rack up a staggering 12 deaths for this fight alone. A combination of his far-reaching flamethrower, his ice staff, and the boo-boo balls, shout out to Margin Boo for teaching me that move, were causing me grief. And the main problem we had was that ice shield. But we figured out a little trick. I found out that if I timed my relic when Odin was about to activate the ice shield, we could delay that phase and proceed to give him the 2-knuckle shuffle. At that point, it was too late for him, and cue another Avengers level sync beatdown.
Avengers!
Assemble.
We then finish off the encounter with Atreus ripping Odin's soul, trapping it in one of the anal beads, and bringing the whole thing to an end. Until Sindri, still drowning in his grief and rage, gets his revenge in the most satisfying way possible. So, did we beat God of War Ragnarok on the hardest difficulty in Fist only? Yeah. Only with 15 rule breaks, a worrying amount of head trauma, and a challenge that was somehow even more miserable than I expected.
More or less what you wanted.
But honestly, this was a brilliant run, and the game still holds up ridiculously well after 3 years. This is sort of exactly the thing I was trying to go for this channel, so if you made it this far, I genuinely appreciate the support. A lot went into this one, and I'd love to keep doing more of these across other games.
No more fucking games!
So if you like it, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Well, we got work to do.